There is a man in the room who says very little. He doesn't fight for attention. He doesn't fill silence with nervous laughter. He simply sits, and somehow, without announcing himself, without a title on his chest, everyone in that room feels it. They adjust. They measure their words more carefully. They glance at him before they speak. You've met someone like this. Maybe once, maybe never. But you've felt the gravity. Here is what almost no one understands about that gravity. It has nothing to do with him and everything to do with you. What you are sensing is the absence of something, the absence of need, of fear, of appetite. And that absence is the most complete form of power a human being can possess. This video is about how to build it from the inside out, and why, once you do, no room will ever own you again. Around 50 AD, a boy was born into slavery in the city of Hierapolis. He had no property, no vote. His body, under Roman law, belonged to another man. His master, a cruel official named Epictetus, once twisted the boy's leg for sport, pressing until the bone bent toward breaking. The boy looked up and said calmly, "You are going to break it." The master pressed harder. Crack. The boy said simply, "Did I not tell you?" No scream, no plea, no surrender of the interior. That boy was Epictetus, and in that moment he demonstrated the thesis he would later teach to senators and generals. There are things within your control and things that are not. Your body is not, your reputation is not, but your judgment, your desire, your response to what happens, that is entirely unassailably yours. The man who truly knows this cannot be broken. And because he cannot be broken, he cannot be controlled. And because he cannot be controlled, he commands. Law 1. The man who needs nothing from you holds all the cards. Think about the last time someone had leverage over you. Trace it back. Almost every time, the leverage existed because you wanted something they had, their approval, their money, their perception of you. Desire is the handle by which other people lift and move you. The moment you recognize a want as optional rather than essential, you pull that handle off. Epictetus called this the discipline of desire. Not eliminating preference, but understanding clearly that your peace cannot be held hostage by any external outcome. In practice, the disciplined man walks into a negotiation already willing to walk away. He walks into a room already satisfied. That posture is not coldness. It is the specific freedom that comes from separating what you need from what you merely want. Others sense this. They cannot name it, but they feel it, a distinct discomfort because they realize their usual tools of influence have no purchase here. And that is only the beginning of what inner sovereignty does to a room. Law 2. Composure under pressure is not a feeling. It is a practice you have already done before the moment arrives. Most people believe calm is a temperament, almost a genetic accident. That belief lets them off the hook. Epictetus was explicit. The inner citadel is not a birthright. It is constructed deliberately through daily rehearsal of the dichotomy. Every morning you choose, consciously, not habitually, what you will treat as important, what you will allow to cost you energy, what you will release because it was never yours to carry. You are building, brick by brick, a structure that holds under pressure, so when the moment arrives, the hostile meeting, the public failure, the person who wants to see you flinch, you are not improvising. You have already been there in your mind 1,000 times. Composure is not the absence of feeling. It is the presence of preparation. And a prepared man in a room of unprepared men is not one of them. He is something else entirely. Law 3. The person who controls the meaning of what happens controls the outcome. Two men can walk into the same catastrophe and walk out with entirely different fates, not because of what happened, but because of the story each one told himself about what it meant. One man loses a position and calls it humiliation. He carries that word for years and it bends his spine. The other calls it clarification. He sees what he was building for someone else's benefit. He redirects. Epictetus was emphatic. It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. The disciplined mind refuses to outsource the interpretation of events. It does not wait for the crowd to decide what a moment means. It assigns a meaning that serves motion rather than paralysis. This is not positive thinking. It is something harder, the refusal to let circumstance write your internal narrative. Whoever controls that narrative controls what you become. The question is whether that author is you or everything happening around you. Law 4. Fear is information, not instruction. The disciplined man reads it without obeying it. Most people do one of two things with fear. They obey it, turning away from whatever triggered it, or they perform bravery, which is just obedience wearing a mask. The disciplined man does neither. He pauses. He asks, what is this fear actually protecting? Is it protecting something real or a comfort zone disguised as a value? 9 times in 10? It is the second. The Stoics called this examining the impression, holding the feeling at arm's length before deciding whether to act on it. In social terms, this is devastating to people who use fear as a control mechanism. The person who tries to intimidate you with disapproval, with implied punishment, that person assumes you will flinch at the right signal. When you don't flinch, when you receive the threat with a flat, steady gaze, the intimidation collapses. Not because you are fearless, because you are disciplined enough to feel the fear and not be moved by it. People see that distinction even when they don't understand what they're seeing. Law 5. The man who has mastered his own appetite cannot be bribed and therefore cannot be fully owned. Power, throughout all of history, has been distributed through 2 mechanisms, threat and reward. Every system of influence runs on one of these 2 rails. The disciplined man has done something most people never do. He has examined his appetites and chosen which ones to feed, not suppressed them blindly, chosen them deliberately. He knows what he genuinely values. And that list is shorter than most people's. Because of this, the reward means less to him. He will not compromise what he has decided is essential in exchange for what he has decided is optional. You cannot be bought at the price of your own clarity, and in a world where nearly everyone has a price denominated in approval or comfort, the man who has settled his own accounts walks free in a way others simply cannot. He does not need to announce this freedom. It announces itself. Here is the turn most people miss when they study self-mastery. The goal was never to become powerful over others. The goal was to become ungovernable by anything unworthy of you. When Epictetus taught the dichotomy, he wasn't building a strategy for domination. He was describing the only freedom available to any human being, regardless of circumstance. The authority others feel in the disciplined man's presence is a side effect, real, undeniable, but a side effect. The primary thing is integrity in the original sense, being whole, undivided, internally consistent. When what you think, what you feel, and what you do are the same thing, when no external pressure is bending them apart, you emit a coherence that most people have simply never encountered. They call it presence. They call it charisma. What it actually is a man who is fully at home in himself, and a man who is at home cannot be displaced. So here is what you take with you, not a tactic. A question to sit with tonight, in the quiet. What, specifically, are you still allowing to govern you that you have not chosen? What fear have you been obeying without ever examining its actual warrant? Because the room you walk into tomorrow will test whether your sense of yourself comes from inside or whether it requires the room's permission to exist. Every man who has ever commanded genuine respect without demanding it had already answered that question before he walked through the door. The work is internal. It was always internal. Begin there. Own the room by first owning yourself.